Welcome back, YouTube. I came here because I wanted to talk about what the community wants for the Global Dokkan Celebration 2026. My last video was talking about what I wanted, and there was some aspects that fall in line with the community, but there's a couple things that I've just been hearing for the past few months that I wanted to put my spin on, my take on, and yeah, let's get right into it. So, obviously, a large thing, a large hole that has existed in Dokkan for the past many years is Namek Saga. They have not focused on it, and so a lot of people are saying they really want Namek Saga for GDC 2026. I brought up this little wheel to show all the different things that I'm going to talk about, and I'll probably intersperse some gameplay of other games in as I'm talking, but for right now, you get the point. So yeah, Namek Saga. The thing about Namek Saga is, I hate to use this word because it really just comes down to preference or opinion, but just based on when the last buffs for Namek Saga were for not for free-to-play characters, but more so for premium summonable characters, I think it's worth it that Namek Saga gets a huge celebration now. I think it's deserved. That's the word I was trying to avoid, but... And maybe you feel differently. Maybe you feel like it's not deserved. But I think there's a pretty good argument to say it's been long enough for one of the most popular parts of the franchise. And even if it's not the most popular, it's definitely the most iconic part of the franchise. For that to not be really well represented the way that it is, yeah, it's time that it gets something monumental. So, to talk about that, right? A lot of people have been talking about a certain character in related to the Namek Saga, but not necessarily in the Namek Saga, and that's got to be Mr. Tech Bardock himself. Now, this guy, a lot of people want to see an easy A for him, mainly because of his active skill. His intro animation, where he sees Goku and Frieza, and he is reaching out to them while they're on Namek. It's very cinematic to think that that would be a way to introduce the Global Dokkan campaign of 2026. But I'm just going to give a little pushback on this. I would rather see him easy with another character, and if you're looking at the screen, you know exactly where I'm going, with AGL First Form Frieza, the Pod Frieza. This is the character that he directly fought. To me, it just makes more sense for him to easy A with the person that he is being antagonistic towards. And while, yeah, that sounds great, the thing about this AGL Frieza is he came out in 2024. He should not be able to easy A yet, and I wouldn't want him to be able to easy A yet because it would be too early. I like the approximately 3-year time span that Dokkan has set up for easy-ing characters, and this is one that I would like for them to hold for a special occasion when they can do like a whole entire Bardock buff. I've seen some people mention, oh, and the other thing is Bardock might not even be on the team. Well, for one, I don't think they would easy A him and him not be on the team, and for two, even if he easy A's and he doesn't immediately have a place to land, it doesn't really matter as long as throughout the course of the celebration they make a place for him on the team. So yeah, I know I'm giving pushback to my own argument here, but I've just seen a couple ideas thrown around about why people do want him and why they don't want him, and I'm just throwing out my wishes of why I don't want him. I don't want him for the reasons that some people say. I more so want him. I feel it would be more cinematic if it was focused around this First Form Frieza, who I really love, by the way. I really love this guy. Second, the other thing that a lot of people are saying is 3 parts to GDC. Uh, First part being Namek, second part being Cell Saga, and third part being Buu Saga. I chose these arts for the characters just to represent some of the really iconic moments of the sagas. So it's not based on like the character or their strength in game or even their animations or their relevance. But the reason I picked these characters and these moments is because while I do like the idea of getting 3 of the biggest sagas represented in Z, I don't like the idea of that being in one celebration. Now, you can see my stone count. I've been saving for a while. I'm not fully free to play anymore. Which means I'm not free to play anymore. But I don't buy stones. You can see in the sales. I certainly do not have these cleared out. So this has definitely been months and months of time of saving. And the point of me saying this is, regardless of your stone count, and regardless of how many stones they do give out, they do give out a fair amount of stones, but I don't necessarily think that's a good argument to wanting to see 6 banners or 3 characters per banner. I don't see them doing it the way they did 10th anniversary, where it was 3 characters, or 2 banners, and then 2 new characters on the carnival and 1 on the Dokkan Fest, and then the same thing in part 2. The only reason I don't see that happening is because it makes more sense to segment the Namek saga within the Namek part of the celebration. It doesn't really make sense to add Cell Saga or Buu Saga into the Namek part of the celebration, especially when Namek Saga has been so underdeveloped for so long. So, with that said, I would rather not see. I mean, you could make an argument that they would do something like that for Cell Saga, because as you can see, I have a 10th year anniversary character here. Now, this isn't the most recent Cell, but only a couple months later, we got a new STR Cell, ironically. It just isn't this specific Cell. But the point is, Cell Saga has been touched a little bit more recently, and of course we had Buu Saga earlier this year, a couple times. So both of those sagas have been touched a lot more recently. They don't necessarily need, they don't really need much in the way of help or sectioning off in a celebration that Namek Saga would. But I still don't see in my mind that they would do anything. If they were to do a 3-part celebration in terms of 3 banners, I don't see them doing anything else other than sectioning off Namek, Cell, and Buu to be their own banners, really. The point of me wanting to bring this up, though, is more so to say that I would rather, what people have been looking at recently is the wording of how the Global Dokkan celebration is, and the celebration afterwards, which is supposed to be the 400 million download celebration. Apparently, since those are 2 separate celebrations, it actually does make a lot more sense to have the Global Dokkan celebration be its own 2-part 4-banner structure, kind of like how Anniversary normally is, or the worldwide download celebrations of the past. It makes more sense to make that the structure, and then have afterwards a Majin Buu Saga celebration. That makes a lot more sense, so that we can finally get our LR Kid Buu, because everyone is asking for that. I mean, it's been long enough. We're 11 years in, 11 and a half going by JP's timeline, and there's no LR Kid Buu. I think it's time. Similarly to Namek, he deserves his LR. He does. The only thing I'm a little nervous about is that they might not give it a Dokkan Fest Buu, but that's besides the point. Hopefully he gets his LR now. It would be awesome. It would be very cool. But I do make that distinction because 2 separate celebrations, I feel like that could, I think the pacing works better that way. I don't love the idea of trying to cram it in to the same time frame, and I also don't like being in the same celebration for more than like a month and a half maximum. Like, I'll do it for anniversary because it's fun, but I like that most celebrations are about a month, maybe 2 weeks if it's one of the shorter ones, and then we move on. It feels fresh. Now, granted, with the characters being different sagas each time, that does kind of help the freshness. But, anyways, that's mainly the second point. The third point I want to bring up is Z heroes and Z villains. So, a lot of people have been saying, oh, we should get a Z heroes team, a Z villains team, or, well, they've been saying Z bosses because we don't have a villains team in amongst these categories. You can see on the screen GT bosses, super bosses, movie bosses. If we were trying to apply the logic that I know that we don't know their logic, Dokkan's logic, Akatsuki's logic, Bandai's logic, whoever's making this game, their internal logic is not made public to us. Sometimes, and I would say oftentimes, we can understand what it is just by looking at the game and bringing two and two together, pattern recognition, context clues, that kind of stuff. But we don't know that for sure. We don't know certain things for sure, is what I'm trying to say. So, if they did decide to make a Z villains team, cool. That would add a lot of people to the roster. And you know what? I actually kind of have a somewhat of a filter for this because I have a no DBS tag, and even though this won't take out the GT and the Super and the Daima, or it won't take out the GT, the Daima, and OG Dragon Ball, you still get a good idea of what a Z villains team would look like. Some people have also made the argument that, hey, we need this because this will, it'll also include the Z movie villains, instead of just being bosses, like how super bosses includes movie bosses like DBS Broly, and also includes the series bosses like Rose. And there is an argument to support that because we have that with super bosses. So the thing about Z villains, though, who is this helping? Like, I could understand and same thing for Z heroes. There is an element of I can understand how this could help some characters, because it's not like when movie bosses came out, it was early in the category days. When super bosses came out, it was kind of late. It was 9th year anniversary, and GT bosses came out 2021, and so that would have been right before 7th year anniversary. So yeah, like right after 6th anniversary for JP. The thing is, though, who is this helping? This category is largely sworn enemies. If we want to look at sworn enemies, I guarantee you there's not that many characters that are getting taken off this list here. I accidentally added a second one there, but sworn enemies is largely the same thing. Now, obviously, there's henchmen that are left off, but we're just talking like bosses, right? Frieza's on Z villains. The movie characters would be on Z villains. The Frieza's already link with one another, and the Coolers do too. And they already share categories like Wicked Bloodline and Terrifying Conquerors and Transformation Boost. And speaking of Transformation Boost, if you have trouble linking the Boos and the Cells, or if for some reason you wanted to put them on the same team, right? The Janembas, the Boos, the Cells, they're all going to be on Transformation Boost anyways. And so, we don't necessarily need a new category for Z bosses, or even for Z heroes. You're going to link them with Pure Saiyans. You're going to link them with Power Beyond Super Saiyan and even Super Saiyans. You'll link them in that way. You don't need to have specifically a Z heroes team when you've already got the environment for that set up. Even there's an argument for like Battle of Fate and all these other things that exist that really do tie a bunch of the heroes together. Goku family, Vegeta family, hybrids. Um, I would say Bond of Master and Disciple is kind of better with branching between the different sections of Dragon Ball, but for Z for Z bosses, I mean we've got Transformation Boost, we've got Terrifying Conquerors, you know, we've got a number of categories here: power absorption, and I would say sworn enemies, especially being one of the big ones. I mean, realistically, it would be a worse sworn enemies if we're being honest, because sworn enemies has a couple GT characters and a couple Dragon Ball characters, a few, I should say. So yeah, I mean, what are we really gaining from this? I feel like it's unnecessary. I'm not exactly mad at it if it does end up happening, but it does feel like redundant. I mean, because who's gaining from this? Who on this team that has a category? I mean, everybody here has a category, so like, who's getting something? Like, even this character that I'm on right now, what's his name? Mira. Mira doesn't gain anything from Z bosses. All these characters that are from Z, whether it's from the movies or from the show or from the mainline portion of the series, they are on a number of categories together that, you know, if they were mashed up in one team, you wouldn't run them together anyways. You run the cells with the cells. You try to run the freezes with the freezes, but you have a little more splashability to run them with someone like Bojack or someone like Cooler or someone like Hirudegarn. And you run the boos largely with the boos. Yeah, they have big bad bosses. That's great. You can run them with movie villains, but Transformation Boost does that for you. Even something like Resurrected Warrior or Storied Figures, because of the aspect of being sealed away from Fat Boo, or what's that other one he has? I think it's this character who has it. It's Legendary Existence. You know, all these different aspects of these characters already link with one another. Oh, Android 13, another one. Android 13, yes, he has big bad bosses, but who do you mainly run him with? You either run him with full Android, so he gets Android Assault, and maybe even Red Ribbon Army, or you run him with other movie villains so that he gets Metamorphosis, Nightmare, and big bad bosses. You know, Fear and Faith is just key, so you don't really care about that, but you've already got two different teams that you run him on, so where does Z bosses really affect anything for him? Or for any of these characters? I don't think it does, personally, and you know, Target Goku, that's another one. Target Goku is another one, but you get the point. I think you understand what I'm trying to say here. I feel that some of the things that the community has been asking for, these are some of the things that, I guess this is just my reaction to these three main things that the community is asking for. I'm not completely opposed to any of them. I just feel like some of them are maybe a little redundant. Maybe it could be packaged a different way from Dokkan, from Akatsuki, from Bandai. And, you know, I'd be for it, but hopefully you guys are hyped for the upcoming celebration. I know I am. I felt like I really wanted to get this out soon. So, yeah, I guess I'll see you next time.